afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Marina Ramirez. I am a PhD student here at KAUST, studying the Environmental Science and Engineering program, and I'm also a project lead in Students for Sustainability. Welcome, and thank you for joining us in this new edition of the Sustainability Seminar Series. So just to remind you, this project started in 2020 with the support of the Head of Sustainability here at KAUST and also graduate applicants as a way to engage the KAUST community in sustainability topics and also raise awareness about these topics that concern everyone at this moment in the world. So this time we have this exciting talk by Morton, co-founder and CTO in Edama Organic Solutions. The topic is scaling of sustainable technology, a story of success. So to tell you a little bit about Mitch, he is Chief Technology Officer at Edama, and he leads Edama's facility design, operations, and science and technology teams, applying his experience and scientific know-how to optimize their composting processes and design innovative products that address the needs for desert agriculture. Mitch holds a bachelor's in biology from the Imperial College of London, a master's in bioscience, and a PhD in plant science from KAUST. He has spent the last 10 years specializing in plant science and desert agriculture, managing field trials in different environments around the world, and learning about the challenges of growing plants successfully and sustainably in arid conditions. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation, Mitch. So join me in welcoming him.
Thanks for the introduction, Malinali, and thanks for the invitation and the opportunity to come and tell you a bit more about Edama, our company. I want to spend this time to tell you about where we started and how we created Edama, tell you a bit about what we're doing, but also where we would go. So Edama is a company that is focused on recycling organic waste and valorizing those materials to help empower and enable more sustainable agricultural and landscaping practices in arid environments. So there's two problems that we're solving at Edama. The first one is the issue around landfilling of organic waste. So when you put organic waste into a landfill and cover it up with soil, creates an anaerobic environment, which leads to the creation of very potent greenhouse gases, particularly methane. When organic waste also interacts with other waste materials in landfills, it creates pollutants and harmful chemical leachates that can enter the subsoil and groundwater resources and contaminate those. Landfilling organic waste represents quite a significant environmental and public health issue. In Saudi Arabia alone, over 20 million tons of organic waste is landfilled every year. That's pretty much the entirety of organic waste currently generated in the kingdom. There are no sustainable outlets for the management of this waste. Unfortunately, also the landfills in Saudi Arabia tend to be not highly engineered and sophisticated landfills, so they tend to exacerbate the negative effects of organic waste in landfills. The other issue that we're tackling here in Saudi Arabia is the poor fertility, poor quality of the local sandy soils. So they're relatively low fertility soils, which means that agricultural productivity is limited there. They also have low organic matter, low water holding capacity, which means that they're very inefficient in terms of the irrigation water that you might use in agriculture and landscaping. And unfortunately, products to improve the properties of local soils are currently entirely imported from abroad, and these materials are very expensive. They have a significant carbon footprint for their import, and also the supply chains are unreliable because it depends on the shipping. And to kind of illustrate this inefficiency of desert agriculture in Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia uses about 80% of its renewable, of its freshwater resources, its groundwater resources in agriculture, but only produces 20% of its own food using that. So it's a quite an inefficient equation that we're trying to solve here. And of course, both of these issues are only getting worse as Saudi population is increasing, as well. It seems to be shifting towards a more consumerist kind of economy where food waste and such tend to be on the increase. Similarly, the poor soil quality issue is not just one that's limited to Saudi Arabia, it's a global issue. 40% of lands are degraded worldwide, and the United Nations estimates that 90% of global topsoils will be threatened by 2050. These are both very significant issues. But we do have a nice, elegant solution at Edama. It's quite a simple one and straightforward one, and it's simply to take this organic waste that is causing issues in landfills, recycling it, composting it, and converting it into products to improve soil properties. So in doing so, we can significantly reduce the CO2 emissions that would have been created in landfills. We avoid all the issues around contamination of soils and groundwaters. We can improve agricultural yields, improve irrigation use efficiency, and reduce the need for chemical fertilizers, and build more resilient and long-lasting soils. And I'll explain a bit more how we go about that. But generally, this approach kind of summarizes our vision as a company, in which we believe that in order to sustainably develop our societies, we have to be more careful about the resources that we use. We have to use reduce our waste and valorize and leverage our waste materials in order to have a chance at sustainably developing. And our mission as a company is to provide solutions, mechanisms, and tools to achieve that. Composting is not a new thing; it's been done for thousands of years. But what really sets us apart as a company is our scientific approach to composting, our attention to detail, our adaptation of typical composting processes and products to the local environment. That means local feedstocks, local materials that are being put in, but also the local soil conditions, environmental conditions, in order to make sure that our products are well suited and adapted. And of course, a lot of our team comes from KAUST. They all have strong scientific backgrounds. We're able to leverage the scientific facilities and capabilities that KAUST has to offer in order to reach that goal. Just a little kind of description of our origins as a company. We started, a few of our co-founders started as members of the Student Green Group, which is the predecessor to the Students for Sustainability Group. This was back in 2016, and we were kind of looking for some sustainable projects to help KAUST. Discovered that the organic waste at KAUST, while it was being collected separately, I think I've already seen the separate bins for organic waste. At that point, it was only being mixed back in with the general waste as soon as it was collected. So we found that to be quite an offensive situation. Started trying to find solutions to that. In the end, we ended up deciding that if we wanted to do it right, we had to do it ourselves. So we came up with this idea of creating a composting company in Saudi Arabia. We took advantage of the Edama competition, which was advertising at the time, and thought it'd be a good idea to submit this as an application. We started a year after just doing some backyard composting, literally piles of organic waste in our gardens, just testing out the process, testing out the product, and using that as a basis to win the Edama competition in 2018. Which gave us our first kind of real funding to start developing the idea a bit further. Here you can see pictures of our pilot composting facility that we built in the KAUST Oasis Solar Park. And so just pretty modest little bins there made of wood. We all built that ourselves. And here's our team also kind of receiving organic waste from Tamimi or from the campus diner. You can see the landscaping and gardening waste being collected there, top right, shredding it all ourselves. It was all a very manual process, but it did allow us to kind of learn about the process, learn about the product, learn about our customers and what they needed, and was a really crucial kind of learning phase for us. And again, based on the lessons learned there, as well as developing our business case, our business model, market research around Saudi Arabia to see, is there a financially viable business model here? We found that there was, or at least the KAUST Investment Committee agreed with us and approved the $1.2 million funding from the KAUST seed fund. And then that allowed us to start building our first project. So we designed, built, and we're currently operating the first mixed waste commercial composting facility in the kingdom, thanks to that initial round of funding from KAUST. We will go and see the facility after this talk, so won't stay too long on this, but it was quite a good arrangement really between us and KAUST. The idea was that KAUST would fund the project. The composting facilities are typically quite asset heavy and expensive projects to build. So the one at KAUST cost nearly $2 million. That was a little bit out of our budget at that point. So we did manage to reach an agreement with KAUST, where KAUST would provide the funding, provide the capital costs for building the facility. In exchange, we would operate the facility and recycle KAUST organic waste for free. Maybe in a typical situation, an operator would charge a fee for every ton of green waste processed. But this was kind of our exchange. It allowed us as a small startup to kind of have access to the funding required to start our project. And it's very important to build your first project in order to be able to convince other customers to follow through. So it was a really good understanding between us. We're very happy and grateful to KAUST for having recognized this opportunity. And in exchange, KAUST gets a very significant boost towards achieving its net zero waste targets. So as you can see, this facility will recycle all of KAUST organic waste, which is about 6,000 tons per year. And that's about 75% of KAUST's entire waste stream. That's a huge chunk taken out of its overall waste stream, and a massive step towards a net zero waste goal. The facility saves about 2,000 tons of CO2 equivalent emissions every year. We also, because the trucks that now deliver the waste to our facility, which is just a few hundred meters away, those trucks no longer have to drive up to the landfill past Rabi. And so that's nearly 2,000 truck trips also reduced. There's several other benefits as well, but those are the high level ones. On the outside, on the output side, we also create nearly 5,000 cubic meters of compost at the end. This product that we can mix into the soil to improve benefits, so we can use this to help support landscaping activities in KAUST. We also save KAUST a lot of money, give them a discount on the product, and the money that they save through reducing their irrigation requirements is also quite significant. This is a bird's eye schematic view of the KAUST facility. I won't linger on this too long because we will be going to tour, but in case not everybody can make it, generally we start by receiving the waste here that's delivered to us by KAUST waste manager, Edama. We store the waste there if we need. We have a shredder there that allows us to reduce the particle size, particularly for landscaping waste, which can come in quite big chunks. That's also where we do our compost formulation. So we mix different organic materials in the right proportions to have a balanced composting recipe so that the composting process can proceed optimally. I'll talk a bit more about that in the next couple of slides. We have a large area here, which is an aeration pad. So it's a reinforced concrete pad with aeration pipes running underneath, and those will supply the material with oxygen during the composting process. That oxygen will allow us to favor aerobic decomposition, which is the favorable one, which leads to a nice compost product and reduced carbon emissions. If we don't have oxygen in the system, we'll have anaerobic conditions and we'll have the production of methane, which is 20 times more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. Over the course of 8 weeks, we will kind of keep an eye on those materials, move them around, homogenize them, and at the end of an 8 to 10 week process, we can screen that material to remove oversized particles and end up with a really nice, fine compost product that we're able to sell to landscapers, gardeners, and farmers. So where we kind of stand out again as a company in terms of composters is our attention to detail at all the different steps of the composting process, which allows us to really optimize the process and end up with a final product that is of a high quality with consistent properties. And the types of things that you have to pay attention to, as I just mentioned, are what you put into the composting process, the feedstocks. So at KAUST, we have various types of landscaping waste, food waste from different sources, from campers, from coffee shops, from residential areas most recently. Each of those waste streams have a particular profile and particular kind of chemical composition. And in order to mix those feedstocks in the right proportions to have the right balance of nutrients and so on in the final mix, we have to carefully sample those feedstocks, analyze those feedstocks in the lab, and we do that on a regular basis. These waste streams are also quite variable. You know, the waste output from the diner on a Monday is possibly quite different from the one on a Thursday. So the more we sample, the more we're able to get a better understanding of those feedstocks and better tweak our recipe. I'm doing on time. 5 minutes. Likewise, we will sample the materials during the composting process. So every 2 weeks, we'll take a sample from each weekly batch that we do, analyze that in the lab, make sure it's kind of progressing in the right way, and of course, measuring that at the end of the period as well when the product is finished. And then we're able to kind of do some quite nice data analysis and see how the different inputs that we use, the different conditions and process parameters during the composting process affect the final product at the end, and we can intervene, modify our operations, modify our recipes in order to create a tailored bespoke product at the end. We do really quite thorough, comprehensive analysis of these materials, physical analysis, moisture temperature is very important, moisture content, particle size, chemical analysis. We really measure about 40 different chemical elements to better understand the composition of the material, and biological analysis. Particularly, we like to test the benefits of our product very thoroughly at the end. So we do a lot of greenhouse experiments, field trials, to make sure that our product is really providing all the benefits that we are telling our customers, making sure that it's better than other products out there in the market, and also just constantly seeking to improve the quality. There's also a lot of microbiology that can be done on these products in this process. After all, it is bacteria, fungi, microorganisms that are actually doing the work during the composting process. They're the ones that are breaking down the organic matter and turning it into compost. So it's very important to pay close attention to those during the process, but also in the final product. The final product is very rich in beneficial microorganisms that can provide a lot of benefits to plants, to the soil. They can help solubilize minerals in the soil, make them plant available. They can help combat negative microorganisms, pathogens, and help reduce disease in plants as well. There are a lot of really interesting subject areas to look into around compost. a very broad field to work in, really cuts across all of the sciences. So as I said, this premium Edama compost is our main flagship product at the moment, although we are developing variants of that. Also doing custom soil blends, which landscapers are particularly interested in. So instead of buying all these different ingredients and then mixing them on site, we're able to provide those mixes, and we're able to provide to match their specifications and requirements as well. As I was saying, the benefits of compost: improve soil fertility, improve water holding capacity, water savings, resilience to disease. Fighting desertification is a particularly interesting one for us now. You've probably heard of the Saudi Green Initiatives, which aims to plant 10 billion trees in the next 100 years or something. It's a lot of trees, and if they want for that to be a sustainable project, they will have to pay close attention to making sure that they're planting the trees in the correct soil, that the trees can survive, so that they're maximizing the water use as well. And of course, higher yield, which can contribute to improved food security nationally. Won't stay too long in here, but here's just an example of a field trial that we did at the KAUST experimental field site. Just broadly, we do this quite often. We'll test standard sandy soil control versus soil improved with manure, which is the most common local organic soil input, and our compost. And so we can test the different species, we can test it under different irrigation regimes. So in the top right, you can see the cumulative yield per plant in green for compost, in yellow for control, and in red for a manure soil. And the solid line is full irrigation, the dotted line is half irrigation. So first you can see that both compost treatments under full and half irrigation outperform all the others. So we even see the plot with half irrigation, but compost is still performing better than other plots with full irrigation. That's something that is very important to us. And just briefly, you can also see that the red line that represents manure, it's actually not even doing, it's actually doing worse than the control. And that's something that we see also, that in this product that is the most common alternative to ours, is actually very variable in quality and quite unreliable, and sometimes has negative effects on plant growth. And mostly because it's a highly unregulated market, there's very little controls done to make sure that the quality of these manure products are stable. We still, as a company, engage quite a lot in further product development. It's really quite an interesting field for developing products at the moment. We're looking into, custom compost blends, into mulches and hydroponic growth media, microbiological products, microbial inoculants, plant growth promoting bacteria, as well as liquid organic fertilizers. It's really a booming market globally as people become more and more concerned about food security, particularly with climate change looming, and particularly in countries like Saudi Arabia, where agriculture is quite a challenging activity. Just as an overview of the company, we're not just about the product, but we have to really build the manufacturing facilities, recycling facilities as well. So we do cover the whole value chain, from planning and design of these facilities through managing engineering, procurement and construction of them, operations and maintenance of the facility, as well as the product development and sales. So again, a very broad spectrum of activities. We're building our team currently, and also hopefully in the next few months hiring lots. So if anyone is looking for a job, please let me know. And last slide, just to kind of give an idea of our growth as a company. As I said, we started back in 2018, just recycling in our backyards. That was probably about 5 tons a year. We increased our capacity by 30 times when we moved up to the pilot scale, by 40 times when we increased, when we started operating the KAUST facility. And we're now in the final phases of closing a deal, inshallah, for 300,000 ton facility, which would be 50 times scale up again. So we're scaling up, we're scaling up as well. I think probably 50 is about as high as we reach on the multiplier. But just for people that are interested in maybe starting their own startups, our funding kind of path started, as I said, with some funding from KAUST. We also won a startup competition, pitch competition, and so we had about $220,000 of grant money, so equity free. Then KAUST has invested $1.8 million so far in a convertible loan. So at some point they can convert that value into equity in the company. And we're about to close a large investment deal with the Saudi Investment Recycling Company, which is the national institution responsible for developing and investing in the sustainable waste management sector. And so hopefully we'll be able to give news on that. I can't give any more detail until we do, but we're all quite excited and yeah, looking forward to continuing down this path. So thanks everyone for coming today and having a listen, and hopefully you guys will help us join the circular economy. And we've got the tour coming up now. You might have also seen announcements for the residential organic waste collection campaign. I think you can sign up to that if you haven't already, and you can put your household on the organic waste collections route, so that your organic waste can come to the facility as well. Thanks very much. Sorry, a bit over time.
It's okay. Thank you so much, Mitch. This is definitely a story of success. Do we all